Hiring a new employee is one of the biggest opportunities for you to nail the systems improvement aspects of your business. Today, I want to talk about the journey I'm going on right now with a brand new member of staff that started this week, and about the things that I've been doing with this person to help me improve my systems from the inside. This is an opportunity that only comes along every time you hire somebody new. So if you're about to hire somebody new, you've just had somebody new, or you're thinking about doing it sometime in the future, whether you're a business owner, an operations manager, or an HR manager, then please listen into this episode, because not doing this, you miss out on such an opportunity that you can't get from your existing team or from yourself. So the question is this: how do entrepreneurs like us, who don't have an endless supply of cash, how do we leverage the best apps, virtual assistants, automation tools, and systems to scale our businesses, increase our profits, and have more time to do what we love to do each day? That is the question, and this podcast will give you the answer. My name's Dr. Steve Day, and this is Systemize Your Success. So this week I've been onboarding a new member of staff, and I want to share the experience of doing that and the opportunity that I have right now and only now available to me to do some major systems improvement on my onboarding experience for my new staff. Now, this is absolutely essential work in my eyes, because the impression people get of you as a business in their first few days and weeks can change the whole landscape about how they approach the work with you, how successful they are, how much energy and effort they put into actually, becoming the best they can possibly be, and you getting the value you desperately want from them as an employee. If you mess this up, you may, at worst, lose the person. They may just think, I'm not interested in working for you. But if you get this right, it can be the absolute stepping stone to having some brilliant person stick with you for the long term. And all of that effort you put in, that time, that energy, that money you've put in and invested into hiring what you hope is going to be the right person. Doing this right, doing this onboarding, training, orientation part right, gives you the best opportunity of that person sticking around for the long term. So this is important stuff, but you only get the opportunity now and again. And if you're a micro business owner like me, this doesn't happen every week. It's not like we're hiring people, continually replacing people that are leaving, hiring new people, growing the team. Or maybe you are, and that's great. Then you can do this more often than not. But if you're a micro business owner like me, if you're a solopreneur and you're going to hire your first person, now this is the moment that you need to be thinking about, how can I improve this experience? Let me talk you through exactly how I've been doing this. This is simple stuff, but stuff that missed, you can't go back to later. People's memories are short, and they'll forget the detail of what they did. Even the next day, like my experience this week, is asking somebody the next day what they did the day before with their onboarding, what their feelings were about it, how they approached it, why they did the thing they did. Sometimes that's even becoming a bit grey. So leaving this weeks or months and then going back and trying to say, hey, how was it when you were onboarded with me? Was it good? Can we improve anything? You're just not going to get the response you need. This needs to be done in the moment. It needs to be done in detail and in person. As in, you need to be a person, not necessarily the business owner doing this, but the person who's leading the onboarding experience. So that whether you have an HR manager, an operations manager, or if you're the business owner doing the bulk of this stuff, then yeah, it's going to be you. Then you need to jump in and having these deep conversations with your new staff to make sure that you're actually learning the secrets that you can't get elsewhere. And let me explain what this is all about. So really simply, my new staff member started, and a part of this process is we send them an email. In that email, it's some instruction to basically log into their new email account we've set up for them, and then click on some links to set up various things like our task management app, Asana, our screen recording app, our instant messaging app, etc., etc. And so it gets them ready, so they've got access to all the accounts they've got. So when they arrive, on day one, so to speak, they've actually got access to the things we need them to, so they can crack on. There's also instructions for them jumping into their task manager, going to their task matrix, which we set up for them. That's how we delegate work in our business, and instructs them to crack on with the tasks that are assigned to them, and then basically that's going to talk them through the whole onboarding experience. That's that sort of 10,000 foot view on what's actually happening, or that's what I intended to happen anyway. But going through this experience with this new member of staff and actually sitting down with them on day 2 and saying, great, why did you do that? Because they'd not done it exactly the way I thought they would. They'd actually clicked something wrong. They'd moved it to the wrong column on the task matrix. They hadn't done what I expected. And instead of saying anything about like chastising them for like, oh, why have you not followed the instructions correctly? I take this responsibility entirely on me. This is a brand new person. They have no experience with working with me. I have no expectations about like how they're going to be able to interpret my instructions. And I want to start this relationship off in a way that I hope will build trust from day one. And that is for me as the business owner, or if you're the operations manager, whatever, is for you to take full responsibility for them not understanding exactly what you meant in the onboarding instructions, because this needs to be so crystal clear that you are 100% sure that anyone can follow it. So I started and said, like, what was the reason you moved it to there? But I made it very clear that this was my opportunity to improve my onboarding systems, and I need them to help me see what we can improve. I need them to help me see what didn't make sense. I need them to help me see, like, why was this confusing? Why did you do it this way and not that way? And so the first answer I got from them was more apologetic and like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't, yeah, it was clear, nothing you need to do. And I said, no, actually, I don't think it is. I want to go back and let's look at that email. So we opened the email up that I sent to her, or sent by the HR person. I opened the email up, we read it. And I said, okay, this is the part we're talking about now. Yeah, it's a bit vague, isn't it? Because it just said crack on with some tasks. So I said, how can we make that more specific to make it clear about exactly what I want you to do? Because the order that she done stuff in was to her sort of just logical, but actually it wasn't the order that I needed her to do it in to understand the process properly. And so we just refined the wording. We said, do this, step 1, step 2, step 3. I made it really clear. This is exactly what I need you to do. We then literally pretended to be her again and go back into a task management map and said, right, now imagine you've read that. What would you do next? And she goes, I'll go here and do this. Oh, okay, wait, hold. That's not what I intended you to do either. And this process, it took about an hour to go through. But in doing this, I suddenly started seeing how people were interpreting our onboarding instructions, our orientation training. Why were they doing it in the order they were doing it? Why was it not getting the result that I wanted to? Why was there any mistakes in this? Because this needs to be crystal clear. And I asked her as well, really importantly, what did you feel when you did this? Were you overwhelmed? Were you confused? Were you stressed? Were you thinking, what the hell's going on? Like, those are what I want to know. I want to know what that person's feeling. And in this case, she said, I was a little bit overwhelmed. I sort of started and then just took a moment out and then came back to it later because it was a bit too much. Like, and I can understand why when I actually going through it with her and saw all this stuff and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't really explained very clearly. But by spending, we spent an hour, probably something like that, and going through and systematically looking at each step in this process, we've now, I think, created something far more robust. And just to be clear, this is an onboarding process that has been refined multiple times before. It's been something we've used for about 8 years. We've shared it with our clients. We get feedback from them. But rarely do I do this opportunity, or rarely have I personally, I should say, sat down with the person who's going through it and one-on-one actually asked them specifically why they did what they did in a very non-judgmental way, in a very open and honest and, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, that I feel it's my system that's at fault. I made that super clear from day one and explained how important this opportunity is for me to learn how we can improve this system. Now, this process has now dramatically, I believe, or go through this process, I should say, has now dramatically improved hopefully the onboarding experience that all my staff will get. And because this is the stuff I teach my clients, they will also share in this updated, improved experience of onboarding. Simple changes. This is not rocket science. These are like simple changes to the process, but you can only get this when you have this opportunity. That said, this isn't just about onboarding people. It's not just about when someone new comes into the business and you talk to them about onboarding. This is about every time you delegate a new process, a new system for somebody else to take over. It's this amazing opportunity we get to actually dive into how can this be improved? How can this system be made simpler, better, clearer? How can it be more foolproof? How can it be made more efficient so the person becomes more productive? By removing procrastination, because it's much clearer about what they need to do and when they need to do it and how to escalate and all these kinds of things, these barriers that people get in people's way of just doing the work and being valuable, being a valuable member of your team. If we can get rid of all that and improve that as we're going, the business is developing, I should say, then things just work more smoothly. We get more done as a business. And the opportunity to do that is when, I believe, we hand over tasks, systems, processes, or onboarding, for example, to a new person who's never seen it before. That's the opportunity, and it's missed if you don't do it at the moment you're doing it. So this is something you need to plan for. I literally planned this week. I've got very little booked on this week at all. So I've got the time to think about this onboarding process, knowing that it needs to be improved because I've seen a couple of things in the past, hiccups that had happened, and looking at, okay, how do I actually nail this once and for all? So I took time out. So this is something I want to get nailed. This is important. I want people to start in this business and to stick around. I want them to feel like, yeah, this is who I want to be because it's super, super systemized and organized. And also, I want to know that if someone can't follow this, because I'm so confident, it's so crystal clear, if they can't follow this, then I will just get rid of them straight away. I want it to be that sort of like absolute certainty. Whereas at the moment, that's not the way it was. It was very clear from looking at it and going through it, there was lots of things that were confusing. And this is because we've adapted the way we do stuff. We've adapted the platforms we use for our training, about how we onboard people. Like there's so many parts of this change over time that things become disjointed, that they don't actually, they've not been joined back up again properly, like as we've adapted certain parts of a system or certain parts of the process. And so this was opportunity to actually make sure all flowed nicely together. So going forward, it'll hopefully improve things. And I hope that as a result of this person will be now more engaged. They can see that I'm massively interested in improving systems, that I'm not want to go out and blame people for getting things wrong, that I want to get feedback. I want them to be part of the process of improving what we're doing, of fixing stuff. So if nothing else comes out of this, it means that I have now got this person into a mindset of systems improvement, of being part of the solution, not the problem, of understanding it's okay to say things don't work. You're not going to get, shouted at for complaining that things are confusing. Quite the opposite. You're going to get thanked. I'm going to be the one who's saying thank you so much for taking the time out to let me know that it wasn't super simple to follow, because you have just solved the problem that we weren't even aware of. And that is priceless as business owners. So my call out to you today, if you like, in this episode is take the opportunity, whether you're hiring somebody or not, but the next time you either onboard somebody new, great, or you hand over a process to somebody new, then please take that opportunity, put some time aside, genuine blocks of time aside, to sit down with that person, whether it's yourself or an operations manager or an HR manager, whatever, and actually listen to them. Ask them the deep questions, ask them the feelings they had, figure out what went wrong, why they didn't do it exactly the way you thought they were going to do it, and then figure out how you can just make some subtle changes to make it clearer and easier to people to follow. This is the simple stuff that people don't do often enough, in my opinion, that makes the hugest difference to how people feel when they work with you, how well things get done, to reduce the amount of time spent on training, to increase people's productivity, to reduce procrastination, because actually the clearer things are, the more calm people feel, the more they'll trust the process and just get on with it and be incredible. Cool, so that's it for today. Please do hit subscribe to make sure you don't miss out on future episodes where I talk about how to make your team, your business, and your life more efficient and fun, and to live with more presence, purpose, and freedom. And do please share this with anyone who runs a business that you know, who you feel might benefit from learning how to create a fully systemized business that runs with or without you. And finally, please do leave me a comment and give me a review on your favorite podcast app or YouTube. Give me some stars. 5 is always nice, but whatever you feel is appropriate is wonderful. And thank you very much indeed for your time today. I know your time is precious, so thank you for spending it here with me today. Thank you very much. Goodbye.